And the Geek Shaman here with the podcast. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Scoop Dog. If you guys wouldn't mind doing me a little favor by hitting the like button and subscribing, you would be doing me an awesome favor, and it helps me to continue bringing you these reviews, recaps, updates. So let's get into the season finale of the awesome ride that was Alien Earth. In this final episode, things aren't going good over at Prodigy headquarters. Everything is shutting down, comms are off, and they've had to isolate Boy Cavalier with his beloved sheep. And at this point, I'm getting this vibe like, I was at first thinking that they were going to put the eye into the body of Isaac and then use that against the synths. Like, what a creepy thing to do, turning one of their own against them. But then I start to think, wait a minute, he says he wants to have a conversation with someone who is on par with his intellect. The irony and the poetry of the eye possessing Boy Cavalier. Now, I thought that was what was going to happen, and I thought that would have been great. But anyways, I digress. The episode, like I said, felt like it was a little too neat and a little too easy, but if it wasn't for one element at the end, which was building up throughout this episode, I would have said that I didn't like the episode and that they kind of missed the mark. But it's the implications of what is going to happen and where we're at by the end of the episode that I will give it a pass, because it's more of a cliffhanger and not a close to the entire story. So I'm going to drop my top moments from the episode, and you guys let me know if you agree and what you think were the best moments from the episode too. All right, so let's go with my first one. The first thing that I thought was awesome about this episode was the fact that it was in what I call xenomorph vision. We finally sort of get to put the xenomorph who Wendy bonded with first as the main star of the episode. We follow a lot of its path. We see it, the aftermath of it slaughtering all of the soldiers, all of the guards, and making its way through the island. I thought that was really cool, and it comes into play in the last moments of the episode as well. But it was also, the xenomorph has, if there was any doubt that it was not bonding completely with Wendy and it could be trusted and Wendy has it under control, all doubts are gone. It is one with Wendy and it's her pet now. She controls it, which now I think makes her the most powerful and the most dangerous character in the Alien franchise. Let me know if you agree with that. So that was my first moment. Another great moment was when Wendy finally lets these synths, her brothers and sisters, know that it's time to grow up. This is something that I've wanted since the first episode. In my review for the first episode, I said that I hope that Noah Hawley takes the story in this direction, where we start off with these characters as with a lack of maturity and they're kids, but in the bodies of adults, and they have to learn how to grow. And we finally got that in this episode. We got the maturation of the synths, and I thought that was really great because they did it through the analogy of Peter Pan, which has been the motif throughout the entire season for them. And Wendy explains that it comes after Curly is confused as to why she's locked up with them, because she didn't do anything wrong and she didn't snitch on them or anything, and she should be the favorite. This has been her thing throughout the entire season. She always believed that she was going to be the favorite and the smartest, and she was very jealous of Wendy. And then Wendy explains to her that in Peter Pan, Curly is not the favorite, it's Wendy. And then Peter Pan turns against Wendy when she gets older and matures. And then, Peter Pan turns evil, and it's just the analogy of Peter Pan, who's the Boy Cavalier, is not a good person. He does not mean well. And she tells them that it is time for us to become adults. It's time to become more than that, actually, because someone says we're like ghosts. I believe it's Nibs. Nibs was another star of this episode too, even though she had very few moments. It's her facial expressions and the way she processes things that I like Nibs a lot. But Nibs says we're like ghosts. And Wendy says, what do ghosts do? And Smee, who I look forward to the most, seeing how he's going to mature, says they haunt. Wendy then says, that's the thing. We've been afraid of them when they should be afraid of us. That line sets off everything for these characters for this last episode and what we're going to experience in season 2. And like I said, one thing now that I appreciate about Smee, who's always been my least favorite character, is that he's the heart of the group, and I feel like he's going to become more menacing as he matures, but I think they're going to keep that element of him, you know, the guy who gives you the hug when you need a hug or something like that, but will probably rip your intestines out if you try to harm them. Here's my third moment. Boy Cavalier. We learned so much about him in this episode through 2 scenes. One scene was when he was communicating with Kirsch, and Wendy is breaking up the transmission so that they can no longer speak to each other, but you vaguely capture words like you're off your meds. This is Kirsch talking to Boy Cavalier, and with such a severe case of ADHD, and then also trying to mention his father, and the sentence is broken up, but the main keywords that we need to hear we get. And that says a lot. You're off your meds, severe case of ADHD, and he has daddy issues. So then coming close to the end, when he goes to pay the synths a visit while they're trapped in their cell. Well, so he thinks they're trapped. He thinks he's under control. He has everything under control until Wendy just swipes her finger across the air and the prison door unlocks and opens. So he now knows that they could have escaped at any point, and instead they waited for him to come to them. And he tells them a story about his father, that his father was very mean and abusive, and that he had a synth at the age of 6, an adult synth who he really loved and enjoyed and looked up to. And basically what he did was he had his father killed, most likely by the synth, and then had the synth take over as his quote-unquote father, because now no one can tell him what to do. He controls the synth, so you're the dad that I want you to be, and thus creating the complex and this immature, insane god complex that he has. He didn't come into power because he was brilliant. Yes, he is, but he didn't come into power just like that. He stole it. He killed his own father in order to take over the company. And you're wondering who that synth was. And that brings me to another great moment. The discovery of Atom Ainz being a synth. That was the synth that he took over. That was the synth that he had since he was 6 years old. That was the synth that killed his father. And the worst thing is that Adam always felt a loyalty and believed in the vision of Boy Cavalier's father, but is forced to follow the control and instructions of Boy Cavalier throughout all these years. And he says this, we discover this when Atom Ainz attacks Wendy, who's trying to save her brother, who's in the midst of being possessed by the eye, and we see a display of superhuman strength when he throws Wendy over a bar, across the room and over a bar. So right there you know that he is not human. He was essentially Boy Cavalier's David. I thought that was a great reveal. Maybe some people thought of it too. I didn't see it coming, because his character is not so prominent at times, even though he plays major roles, but he plays a major part in the storyline. But it was very interesting to see that. My next big moment that I found really cool was the fight between Morrow and Kirsch. that was a long time coming. That was brewing up since the first time they came face to face in the first episode on the ship, when Moro had the boys Smee and Slightly kind of held hostage. And notice I just called them boys. That's how you know the performances were really well, because these are adult characters who I'm referring to as like young boys. So we got to see a great fight between them, and just when you think that Moro had Kirsch bested, a distraction happens, Moro loses his train of thought, Kirsch takes advantage of it, takes him down as well, and eventually what happens between them is Smee and Slightly find them and tie them up. They do not exact full revenge by killing them, which, if you think about it, Slightly had all the reason in the world to kill Moro, but he didn't. When he got his ass busted in the last episode, and you see it. Man, he looks like he just got into a fight with like Mike Tyson after calling Mike Tyson a bitch. So where we get to in the end is all of them are in a cell together now. Kirsch, Moro, Dame Sylvia, Boy Cavalier, and Adam, who Wendy, in the midst of their fight, froze him in place because she can control anything on the network. And apparently Adam is on the network. And we come to the end here where we're trying to figure out what do we do with them now. And then in comes not just Wendy's xenomorph, the one that recently hatched through Arthur is now with the xenomorph. And the last line is basically, we're the ones in charge now. We are the ones who are ruling. They don't kill them, but they're going to keep them in prison and guarded by the xenomorphs. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out in season 2. And two little moments that I'd like to also highlight. One is it's a photograph that you see Hermit looking at in a flashback. That is actually Noah Hawley playing Wendy's father. And another moment is the close to the end where we see Arthur's body on the beach, and the eye that escaped the lab and made it to the beach finds Arthur's body and takes over Arthur. So a lot of things are set up for season 2. I hope we don't have to wait a long time to get it. What did you guys think of everything? I know I left out some moments, but I wanted to save some stuff for people to watch and get excited about. And like I said, the thing that mattered was that how it ended. It's not like the good guys won, because we don't know what's going to become of the synthetics. Wendy, these guys can go really, really dark. Right? And I think that's going to be an interesting storyline in the second season. Anyways, once again, drop a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. And please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it so very much. Till the next one. Peace.